I looked up the word community, just not because I don't know what it means, but I'd like to hear what others said. And the few that I picked up were a unified body in common interests, values, and rules and background. And I grew up in a small community, and if I had the choice, I would go back. But God hasn't called us back. So, but that, to me, going back would mean going home and feeling like, oh, this is where I belong. So belonging is a huge part of what community is. And so that's what I think when I think about my community. We grew up, it was a small community. It's grown now. And so when I go back and I see kids I don't recognize, I always ask them, who's your mom? Or who's your dad? And then they tell me who their mom or their dad is, and then I say, well, what's your name? Because I want to know who they're connected to. So being connected is also, the connection is also a huge part of what community means to me. And also being accepted in your community. So when I go back, because I've been away actually probably, I left home when I was 14 to go to high school because we had to leave home to go to high school. And since I was 14, it's been like go home for a while, leave, go home. And it seems like more like leaving most of the time than staying. And but it's, to me, when I still think about it, it's like going home. Even though I haven't lived there for 34 years or something like that, it's still home. That's my community, because I know that's where I belong, that's where I'm connected to people, and that's where I'm accepted and loved and cared for. I come from a strong family. I know if something happened, in a heartbeat, my family would be there. And that to me is a strong sense of community. And I know we wouldn't be able to do what we do if it wasn't for my community back home, and Howard's community. He grew up in Quebec. I mean, he was born in Quebec but raised in Ontario. And so both sides of our family, we know we have strong community behind us in supporting what we do. We kind of live in the middle here to compromise, but we know that community is just that belonging, I know that I can go over there and I just feel like, oh, this is home. Just that deep sense of this is where I belong, this is where I'm from. And my children, they say going home is going back to my family. They were born in Alberta, both of them. And we didn't really actually live there. We traveled across the country pretty much. Howard sang in a gospel band, so we traveled in Canada and the U.S. And we stopped when our son was 3 years old, so they grew up on the road. But we had a trailer in my mom and dad's yard, and that was home for 2 weeks out of 6 weeks most of the time or whatever. But to them, going home is over there too, because they know they belong over there. There's a deep connection that's over there. So that's what community is to them. And we always talk about we're going home, and this, it almost seems like Niverville should be their home, because we've been here the longest anywhere since we've lived anywhere. But that is our home, that is our house kind of, but home is still over there where our roots are. And so that the deeper connection is over there for them too, even though they've been away for a long time. And I know as in our growing up years, my dad was away a lot because he had to feed 12 kids. So he worked, he was a logger, so he was away for long periods of time. And so my mom did a lot of the rearing and my older siblings. And we grew up in it was a strict home. we had a lot of rules. Like we couldn't leave the yard without permission. And it was different because that's not the norm for a lot of Aboriginal homes. But that's how we grew up. And as a teenager, it's used to just like, oh, they're so mean, you know, like. But when I look back now, I was so thankful that I had those boundaries. But in the moment, it seemed harsh and mean, so all the kids from the community, our yard was the playground. Like we would have 40 or 50 kids in our, you know, and everybody knew, you know, like, so we'd be walking, we'd go and can we walk them home? Because, you know, they're scared to walk home by themselves. So there'd be like 5 or 6 of us walking one person home, you know, like because and I mean, you know, like community, taking care of each other, watching out for each other. And even, you know, like, if somebody killed a moose, you know, like you're portioning out everybody's piece, you know, like, and then you end up maybe with a hind quarter, you know, because you had to give to all your relatives, and you know, like, so that's community, you know, like the sharing, and that's how we grew up. That's a deep sense of being together, and like even today we still do that, like. And it was, everybody got a knife, even the little kids, when you're cutting meat, you know, like my kids were probably like 7, 8 years old. Then we would all stand there. Sometimes there's 20 of us, and all the kids have a knife too. It's not real sharp, but they still do, you know, like cut stew meat or whatever. And to, you know, that's being part of the, you know, like our family unit. And I know they get strength from that. And even when there's fish, you know, like they're scaling the fish, you know, their knives don't have to be that sharp, but they're scaling fish, and again, standing around together and being connected to all their family. And even like with your, like when you say family, it doesn't just mean my son and my daughter and my husband. My family means 200 people. So it's kind of, and like even when we were growing up, it was aunt in our language. If you say aunt or my uncle, when you say that in Cree, it means my little mom or my little dad. So it was, Namamas means my aunt, and she's my little mom because I have a big mom, right? And then my uncle and Babas means that he's my little dad. So, you know, like they're part of the family, and they kind of do the role of what your father would do if your father wasn't there or whatever. So, you know, like that's, to me, that's what a strong community is, knowing that you're connected, knowing that you belong, knowing that you're cared for, and that you're accepted by those that live in your circle.